Hello, everyone. My name is Michael Mustapha. I'm currently a software engineer at Zalando, Europe's leading fashion and lifestyle technology company. I graduated from the University of Ibadan in 2020, where I studied electrical and electronics engineering. I would like to start by appreciating the organizers of the Tech Week for the amazing job they've done in ensuring that I deliver this talk. And I'm very delighted to share my story and how it relates to positioning yourself globally for opportunities. And I hope that the few minutes that you listen to my talk will be worth your time. So how did I break into tech? I I have had people ask me these questions a lot, especially coming from a traditional engineering background. My response most time is that I am lucky to have undergone my first internship at a tech consulting firm in 2015. So it's not usually the first option for most engineering students at the time, and I think I was fortunate to have done that. My first introduction into it wasn't exactly with coding, but with the hardware, where I was connecting network switches, routers, telephone technologies at the time. And prior to me leaving, I had a basic coding experience with Python, where I was taking courses and building, simple, very simple games. And so I went back to school with this interest already at heart, and combining the interest with my academics, I also needed to look out for student bodies on campus that were, participating in coding activities, bodies like IEEE, the Google Developer Student Club, and being a part of those bodies really helped me balance out my interest as well as my pursuit for a good academic experience. So while I was also a student doing my holidays and all my internship in school, I was always going back to this company, and in order to, I always tag it as an experience to continue my learning, and it was always fun doing this. So doing my holidays, internships, and every break that I had, I was always going back to this company to learn. And after my final year came COVID, and I had the time to learn new skills during COVID, most of which I still use today. And I'm very, very grateful that I spent those time then learning those skills. And after COVID, after I was done with school, I moved to work for a startup that was co-founded by my mentor before I started my youth service. And luckily enough for me, I also did my youth service in the same company, so that was also very good. And doing my youth service, I made sure that I attended conferences, online, most of which were hosted in the United States, in Europe, and some of them were free, and some of them I had to pay a few $10, $15 at a time. And the sacrifice of doing that was worth it, because it introduced me to different people. I had an understanding of what different companies were looking out for, what companies were building, how they were building it, and I think this created an opportunity for me to understand the industry better. And so because I was in the circle of people at the time, it was easier to have an understanding and to see different opportunities, on LinkedIn, on other communication forums like Discord, Slack, a lot of them. And I think it was a sacrifice that really paid off at the end of the day. And few months into working, almost a year working, I started looking out for roles outside Nigeria. And one of the reasons why I decided to look for those roles outside Nigeria was because the technology that those companies were using, some of the things I wanted to learn, like cloud services, Kubernetes, and a lot of things, were practiced over there. And yeah, I applied for these roles and I got multiple offers even before I finished my service year, which was very good. So why have I shared this brief story? I have shared it to also show that it's a journey. Majority of the things that you want to achieve won't come immediately. Right? There is a every journey marks there is a starting point, and there's also a destination to a journey. So there are things that must be done now in order to get to a desired destination. So I was able to come up with some actionable steps that I think would be helpful in helping you position yourself for these opportunities. The first is getting very busy, which means you need to get your hands doing things. You need to spend time learning. You need to spend time learning. I often tell people this a lot, that no matter how fancy your resume is, no matter how tush or pushed your LinkedIn profile is, um, there's going to be a test on what you know. There's going to be a test on the knowledge that you have. And I think since you are still in school, it's important to really spend time learning these things. Spend time learning. I can't emphasize this enough. Appreciate the basics, appreciate things like learning data structures, algorithms, compilers, networking, a lot of those things. And because especially if you don't have a core computer science background, it's important to learn those things to bridge the gap. And the knowing things like this are really important. And because knowledge builds up over time, you might not have an understanding of some of the things you want to do in the future, but it's important to still do them. It's important to still learn them, right? Because these are the things that good quality companies are really looking out for. And embrace the little beginnings, and get your hands doing things. The second point I would like to share is uh, maximizing your internships and maximizing your holidays. In the story that I shared, you would see that whenever there was a break, whenever I had a break, or whenever I was on strike, or there was an internship, I was always going back, to this company to learn. I was always getting real world experiences from learning. And most of the internships that you would do might be paid and unpaid. Right? I would like to encourage and advise that you don't look at the money now, right? Because the money is definitely going to come, right? When you have value to offer, there's going to be a return for that. There's always going to be a return for every value offered. And I also, one thing that I also gained from doing lots of internships and volunteering opportunities was that it played a role in my final year project. And before I left the company where I interned at the time, the company was looking into going into IoT, right? And my boss at the time shared a technical paper with me, to have a peek into what it feels like to build an IoT system. And with this interest and spark, when I got back to school for my final year, I immediately spoke with my project supervisor about doing something that merges hardware and software. And having an electrical and electronics engineering background with real world computer science experience, I wanted to build something that maximized these two fields and the experiences that I've gained. And for my final year project, I built a smart parking system, because I was able to build a mobile application, to build a backend server. I was able to model the parking area, using things like Raspberry Pi, Arduino, and different sensors. And it was an appreciation of the knowledge that I've gathered, over the years in school and also doing my internships. So it's important to apply for internships, whether it's a month internship or a 2 month internship, paid or unpaid. Be open to really participating in these internships. And the third point I would like to share is about mentorships and relationships. And I can't overemphasize this. And one of the stories that I shared, in the story that I shared, you would see how the job that I got after school was through a mentor, right? And one thing that mentorship gives you is that it helps you to bridge a lot of learning gaps. A lot of time that you would have spent learning a particular concept for weeks. I mean, it could take you few days because you have someone who have gone through the process, who understand what it means to start out, learning. And it's important to also build relationships, build relationships that can, I mean, there are lots of opportunities that you would have that you wouldn't even need to apply for, but because you've built expert relationship, it helps to bridge a lot of gap. Another point is social awareness, and I'm going to talk briefly about LinkedIn. And I mean, if you haven't heard about LinkedIn, I would encourage you to do that immediately after this talk or after the tech week. And some of the highlights of the things I've done on LinkedIn. And I mean, I've reached out to lots of people. When I was in Nigeria, I reached out to this employee in Microsoft at the time, who was a brand specialist. I mean, I was in engineering, I wanted to do tech, but there was this person working in Microsoft. And just conversing with this person, and they were able to recommend books that I could read. And one of the books that really changed my mind at the time was written by Dr. Carol Dweck, known as Mindset, the New Psychology of Success. And you begin to appreciate what it means about difference between growth mindset and a fixed mindset. Reading that book really shaped my view about learning and about life. How that if there is something that you want to learn, there's nothing that can't be learned. Basically, there's nothing that cannot be learned. The moment you put your heart to it, you can learn it. The moment you put your heart to it, you can learn it. And also, my current job was through LinkedIn. And without having a referral, I just went online on LinkedIn and applied, search filters, and oh, this is the kind of job I'm looking for into so areas. And I mean, different jobs, vacancy popped up, I applied, and here I am today. So that is one of the benefit of social awareness and LinkedIn. So I'm going to encourage everyone to participate, sign up, and portray yourself professionally on LinkedIn. And if you are there and you are not maximizing it yet, LinkedIn is not a it's not just a social media platform. It's a place for professionals, and you can maximize it. And the world is global. The world is global. You can even be in Nigeria and have access to lots of opportunities, outside Nigeria. And that is the world that we are currently living in. And another thing is also about sharing. And when I started, I just started writing things, for my friends in school back then. And before you know it, I was writing in a blog, and some of the things that I've learned, I've been able to document them in my personal blog. And in different interview sessions, I've been asked, "Oh, you wrote about this. Can you tell us more about this?" And these are some of the things that writing and sharing, these are some of the opportunities that he affords you, and finally, on the point is the most important, which is the God factor, and I know some people won't attribute their success to it, but in my journey so far, there have always been an element of the God factor in it. There's always been the place of wisdom to learn certain things, to speak to certain people, and there's a place of grace and favor as well. But it's also important to work and also to put God hand in hand, right? So this is the mindset I usually have, is that grace is going to get you to a place, right? But skill and expertise is going to keep you there, right? It's going to keep you there. So you need a combination of all this, which is the God factor, and they've also been a bit of challenges as well. I think it's important that I share some of the challenges that I've had, and one is being a student and having to merge the interest of software engineering and being a student as well. So because I wanted to have a good grade. I wanted to finish in a good grade, and it was a bit difficult having to manage my academic life, social life. Having to also learn, and there was also fellowship as well. So it wasn't easy, I must confess, but because I knew some of the things that I wanted to achieve outside school, I just had to keep pushing. And like I said before, there was also the God factor as regards wisdom, on what to do and what not to do. Some things that you have to say no to, and some things that you have to apply to. And I mean, it won't be easy. I must confess, but you just need to do it. You have to do the job, and I just want to conclude by encouraging you that your dreams are valid. Your dreams are valid. Don't let anything discourage you. Don't let anyone talk you out of it or talk you down. Whatever it is that you want to achieve, I want to tell you that they are achievable. People have done it before, and there is already a landmark on how to do it, right? You just need to follow certain principles, and I want to tell you that they are achievable. And lastly is that it's a journey. It's a journey, right? And you have to keep going. It's not just about starting and ending midway. It's about finishing, right? It's about finishing. And also, talking for myself as well, I'm still on that journey. And it's I started somewhere at a point in the journey, and there are still lots of milestones that I would want to achieve, in the future, and I'm still on my journey as well. So it's valid, and these are the ways that you can position yourself. So to run down the points again, number one, get your hands busy, appreciate the basics, keep learning, spend time learning. Number two, maximize your internships and your holidays. Number three, seek out for mentorships and quality relationships. Number four, social awareness platforms like LinkedIn, Twitter. You don't just go there and type random things and play. Those platforms can be beneficial to you. And number five, the God factor. Yeah, I would like to end it here, and I hope that you've learned something from my story and from the point. And I want you to have this in mind that your dreams are valid. So, since I won't be able to take questions, I would like to encourage you to reach out. You can reach out to me directly on LinkedIn, search for Michael Mustapha, and you would see my profile. Send a connection request. I'm going to accept it the moment I see it, and you can ask your questions directly also via email that that the organizers can share with you as well. So I hope you enjoyed this talk, and see you around. Take care. Bye bye.